The topic of this session is career opportunities in the field of Hindi, Sanskrit, or other Indian languages, Indology, Buddhist studies, Yoga, and Ayurveda. In this session, representatives of various organizations would be making their presentation and talking about career opportunities in their respective fields. To begin with, I request Shri Kumar Tuhin, Director General of ICCR, to kindly make the opening remarks.
Good afternoon, friends. So, welcome to the post-lunch session on the second day of our Knowledge India meeting. And I mentioned post-lunch session because now we come really to the bread and butter issue of our conference, which is to deal with career opportunities of the students and the scholars who are working in these fields abroad. This matter has been flagged to us in ICCR and also has been irritating the minds of people who are dealing with this area for many years now, as to how do we sustain the interest of students abroad, how do we sustain the interest of scholars abroad, and the fact that there may be a decline which is not only occasional but actually appears to be a consistent decline in the numbers of students, at least in some main areas abroad, has been pointed out and is very, very obvious. So what do we do with this? Now, it is not that this matter would have a very quick solution. Also, it is not that this is only typical to India studies. This may also be true with many other subjects also. But still, this is still a fact which I think warrants our very, very serious attention. And therefore, what we have tried is that in this session, we have brought the people who are real experts, who are domain experts in this area, who are dealing with this topic in day in and day out, so that they can provide a perspective from industry. They also provide a perspective from some of those specific domains in which there may be potential for engaging with students, engaging with the scholars, and also create some sort of incentive mechanism or some sort of an outlook in which people can look up to the day when they can pass out, they can study these subjects and hope to have a decent career. So therefore, we have today both our apex chambers here, CII and FICCI, and also with them, we have also some of those associations, some of those experts and institutions who can provide light to us, who can again touch different aspects of it. And again, I'm not expecting that we will clearly have a solution at the end of this, but at least we will begin to explore the contours of those solutions. So we have, apart from CI and FICCI, we have Publishers Association of India, we have Ayurveda Drug Manufacturers Association, we have Professor Punya from IIT Roorkee. Have I missed anyone? Probably I've covered. So what my request then will be that in this backdrop, if they can, maybe initially they can speak for about 7, 8 minutes, 9 minutes, because we have about 2 hours time for us. And then thereafter, we can again, as we have been doing in the past also, we can open up the floor and we can take your inputs, your suggestions, and also we can have some interaction so that by the end of it, we can get some better sense of where we are standing in terms of career opportunities. Thank you very much. And let me invite, okay, so let me again hand the floor back to Sadhna ji so that she can take it forward. Thank you.
I first invite Dr. Shweta Sinha Deshpande, Director and Associate Professor, Symbiosis School for Liberal Arts and FICCI.
Thank you, Sadhna ji. Good afternoon, and welcome to this post-lunch session. I have to first and foremost express my gratitude towards ICCR and MEA for inviting me here. amongst such stalwarts on Indian knowledge systems that I really feel little actually in that sense, because your experiences are way about the Indian culture is far more enriching than my own. And the last 2 days have been extremely intriguing and enriching for me as an academic. I'm an archaeologist and an anthropologist by training. I also lead academic institution, an undergrad program. And I think that kind of gives me a certain perspective into the bread and butter issue Ambassador Tuhin talked about. While Indian knowledge systems, or for that matter, any traditional knowledge system is under the radar right now. We are struggling under the wake of Western knowledge systems or Western ideologies and philosophies. It has its own positives. The technology, the way we've evolved, has been something integral to the reason why we are all here. But I think in the post-COVID era, what has happened is the life that individuals led and the struggles that they felt led them to focus a little more towards what do I have for me in this for the future. I think what do I have for me in this for the future has become the source of the bread and butter issue, leading to a decline if for programs which are not employability centered. So humanities and social sciences are suffering, language studies are suffering across the world, not just in India. And therefore, Indian knowledge systems, I would say, is not something that is very different. It brings together not direct employable skills to begin with for a young student. But at an educational level, I think what we need to engage with is understanding of the kind of skills that the knowledge systems, whether indigenous Indian or otherwise, provide a young individual, and how that young individual then needs to take it forward. The term 21st century skills is something that has been propagated by the World Economic Forum. And it talks about critical thinking, it talks about experiential learning, it talks about being able to work with a diverse population, research and writing. And frankly speaking, after having all the conversations that we've heard since yesterday, these are some skills that are definitely available within the Indian knowledge system. And what needs to be done is that it needs to be integrated within the knowledge base that we are using at the school level or at the college level. Having said that, I think I also want to share the fact that in my conversations with all of you dignitaries and scholars in different areas of Buddhist studies, Indology, Hindi, Sanskrit, as well as Ayurveda and yoga, I've realized that we can't have a solution. One size does not fit all. And as an academic and who deals with students who are also individuals, and we've been talking about India and Indian knowledge, talking about individualism in many, many ways, right? We have to think about every individual finding a solution for themselves. But what we need to be able to do is help these individuals to find those skills amongst the various modes of education and the various systems of education that we offer. We are looking at building a certain awareness, because it is this awareness of Indian knowledge system across the world, as well as internally within the country, is going to help our students as well as the industry. If the industry and the student need to work hand in hand, then there has to be something that, some information that ties them together. And I think that is where your leadership is extremely important. We are looking at building that awareness through possibly faculty development programs. We need to talk about management development programs, where short programs can bring in skills from our knowledge systems into the industry and into our curriculum. Trying to portray this as something out and beyond, I don't think is going to work. And I think the earlier session kind of indicated towards this, that what is required is a slow baby step a process, a systemic process which tries to tie the loop where we are bringing in language. So you have Sanskrit and Hindi as well as other traditional languages, because the knowledge is embedded in these languages. So we need scholars who will be able to study these manuscripts and give us those nuggets of information, which then as institution builders, as industry members, we integrate within our systems. Because it is only through a very logical, systemic pathway can we bring all of this into the mainstream curriculum? It cannot be imposed upon. It has to be done slowly. So, in terms of the leadership that you bring in your own nations, in your own communities, what we are looking at is having you participate and help us bring that knowledge to the forefront, which we can take forward. I think the conversations around the change that the world is going through so my undergrad degree was in history, and history talks about something called the axial age. An axial age is a time in the world history where there is a huge change that comes through. And I think in terms of India and its position in the world, that we're inching towards that, right? And to be able to represent that, we need to showcase a much more structured, articulated program in terms of the Indian knowledge systems to the world. And therefore, through the conversations across the breakup sessions yesterday, we heard about regulatory bodies, regularized curriculum, maybe a standardized exam, all of that. And I think a lot of it was also set towards government support. And the government support, definitely, like ICCR is taking forward, we are looking at supporting all of you, because it is through support with you and the students that you will engage with, we can build exchange programs. I come from Symbiosis, and Symbiosis has worked with this idea of exchange programs where students from India and abroad travel to each other's universities. And when international students come to our country and to our college, we do offer a very integrative program on India. This program is not just about the traditional Indian society, but it also talks about India today. When you talk about India today and connect it to India of the past, that is when that aha moment for a young student happens as to, okay, you can't look at the contemporary world in the absence of the past. So we do something such as that. We've also in Symbiosis introduced some courses such as Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, which is a non-credit course, but every student is expected to participate in this course. It is offered in a hybrid model. Students engage with faculty, they work on posters, they read literature, and they try and understand their own country, their own cultural space that they belong to, which in the past or maybe through the school curriculum they've not been able to engage with. The other aspect that we work with is trying to engage with students on Indian traditions in an academic framework. And this minister was talking yesterday about a conference where we were trying to talk and understand about strategic Indian culture. And this was a conference that was held in Symbiosis, where the conversations was amongst academics, teachers, students, and industry personnel. So again, an environment which is created of conducive conversation, which is integrative and does not try to sideline one or the other. I feel, also need to work with the idea of more literature, which is accessible for young individuals as well as adults. And I think I have someone from Publication House here, and I'm sure they'll be touching upon. But we felt, and I've had this conversation at my own institution, we felt that when we were growing up, novels or comic books, Amar Chitra Katha was the way we understood our own culture. Today, there is a culture of graphic novels. Graphic novels today are not just giving you a certain traditional story. They also talk about the kind of skills, the kind of nuggets of information that you can draw from. And again, that is where we need Indologists, we need scholars from Buddhist studies, we need scholars in Sanskrit and Hindi who can help us build this narrative graphically, either in print media or in an online media. It is through this information that we will be able to create generations of young individuals who will then contribute and understand their own culture and take it forward, whether it is in industry, whether it is in the diplomacy, whether it is in academia. But in the absence of these, inclusive approaches, it will become extremely difficult for any knowledge system to find a foot in the door that is already closed for us. And finding a foot in the door, I think, is the beginning and not the end. activism might not work, but advocacy will. So I think with that, I feel I would like to take any questions that come along that line. But thank you so much. I hope I have not overshot the time. Thank you.
We'll do question answers after every 2-3 speakers. I now invite Sri Rajiv Vasudevan, Co-Chair, CII and Ayush, and CEO of Apollo Ayurveda Hospital.
Thank you, Dr. Shweta, for making a fantastic opening speech. Ambassador Tuhin, Ambassador Abhay, distinguished co-panelists, and all the eminent guests from overseas who have come to, who are lovers of India and Indian systems of thinking. So in the next 8 to 10 minutes, I would quickly want to rush through a set of data which will outline the opportunities and then maybe invite questions at the end. So I'm not going to be explaining any of the points too much in detail. So with that, the idea would be to reach career opportunities in going through a sequence of points which will allow us to grasp it better. So if you look at the fact that today, this is a very, very seminal study covering 204 countries over a close to 30-year period. And it shows that, first of all, people are living longer, but people are living with greater amount of disabilities across the globe. And the developing countries are affected even more. But the other thing to remember that even in countries where the longevity is high, the quality of life is suffering, whether you take Japan or you take the US or Europe. Right? This is the trend which is available. So this slide is very important. When we look at opportunities in an ancient medical healthcare system, which is also a knowledge system, let us not forget that. So when you look at I don't think you can see this, there is a continuum of healthcare. We often tend to think of these traditional systems only in the form of medicines, right? Herbal products or, herbomineral products. We forget that it is a complete system of health. In those, couple of millennia back, there was no competition. There's no need to compete with modern medicine or any other pathy. So at that time, the wise people of this part of of our earth conceived of an approach which would look at healthcare through the life cycle. So whether you begin with the primal prevention, which is the health of an expectant mother, so that the fetus yet to be born has maximum life potential, or you take primary prevention. So when you talk of preventive healthcare, we forget it's a complete spectrum. But the important thing I want to tell, mostly across the world, today the emphasis is on this acute and emergency care. If you look at most countries' focus here. So if you look at it before and after, and that's where Ayurveda has got a unique application, right? So I'll come to this. The secondary prevention and tertiary prevention in particular and promotive health is going to be a very important opportunity. Suffice it to say, Ayurveda has got mainstream relevance. It complements what modern medicine can do, right? So whether it is a pre-acute, acute, emergency, post-acute, Ayurveda can be the treatment of choice for non-emergency medical care. Very different from the purely resort type of pictures that some of your countries or some of you might be familiar with, right? So these are things which we currently do in India, which is approved by insurance, which is approved by health insurance companies, by the central government, and so on. So across mainstream medical specialties, mainstream chronic diseases, rehabilitation, all of this is being done today as we speak in India. So the other very interesting thing is that in this complete symptom-oriented healthcare system that we have, we forget that it is the patient who carries multiple diseases. Ayurveda's paradigm gives you a whole person approach, which not only takes in more than one condition at one time, right? And this is the largest healthcare share of healthcare spend globally. In the US, 76% of healthcare spend goes on people with 5 or more chronic diseases, right? In India, it's not very different. Of course, insurance typically is paying for single disease treatments. So I would say that in addition to disease, we're talking about compromised quality of life. So this is a huge area of opportunity uniquely before Ayurveda and yoga. So the other part to remember is that Ayurveda restores a virtuous cycle of good health. Why do we bring this? Because you're talking about career opportunities. What would people in your countries, by learning, where do they apply it, is the point we're coming to. This definition of good health that was enunciated by sage Acharya Sushruta some 2,600 years back, 700 years back, right? That still is far more encompassing than the WHO definition, which dates back to 1976, right? In one go, it posits a framework for positive health, right? And Ayurveda restores this entire thing. This is what immunity means. Immunity is not the presence of vitamins or taking some tablets or supplements. It is the presence of all of this. So positive health. So Ayurveda enables that. So the thing about complex systems thinking, those of you who are academicians, Ayurveda is a perfect example of complex systems thinking applied to the health of any system. In fact, those in anthropology can even look at the interaction between man and his habitation, the local community, society. It is so comprehensive in its approach. As you can see here, environmental factors, the diet, lifestyle, the genetic profile, all of this in a many causes, many effect paradigm. We are so used to a single cause, single effect paradigm, so going from that. So when we look at the fact that a concept called homeostasis, which is very current in modern medicine, which goes back to ancient Ayurveda, we all face stressors which are physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. There are spiritual, as you say, the dark night of the soul. All of these in Ayurveda gives a way to developing disease. So Ayurveda restores homeostasis. So good health in Ayurveda is the ability to restore homeostasis. So this thing going from physical stressors, mental to spiritual health is what we see. And this is attained through a multi-pronged approach. It is never a singular one-size approach. It is personalized diet, personalized lifestyle, counseling or mental factors, medicine, therapy, one or more depending on the stage of the disease and the patient. So it's not a one-size-fits-all, and it is locally, regionally, culturally sensitive. So what we prescribe in Australia may not be what we will do in India. What we do in one part of India, in south of India, in the coast, will not be what we'll do in Delhi, because the same person at a different place at the same different time is a totally different person. So Ayurveda brings that immense potential of personalization. And this is done through a disease management approach. I just want to tell that appropriate diet and lifestyle, right? So as we told here, that we take this entire thing, this affords tremendous career opportunities for people, as we'll come into it. So the approach to all of this, we won't have time to go into it, but the fact that Ayurveda is a type of system of medicine which does not create a side effect, does not create a new disease, when it is practiced as a systematic science, as a knowledge system. So this is all nothing new. It is what was initiated in Ayurveda in ancient times. I just want you to look at something very importantly. When you look at Ayurveda, we often think it is just some faith or folk healer sitting and doing something. This is what we would call the etiopathogenesis tree for a serious diabetic patient with multiple symptoms. This is for somebody with an anterior horn cell disease, a neurodegenerative condition. right? But what I want to show you, these are the things on top, what you see here, and the earlier one are the etiologies, the root causes, which lead to this disease, okay? So if you don't correct, as the famous American, I think Dr. Osler or somebody said, with the right diet, there will be no disease, and without the right diet, no medicine can cure it. But this exactly is established here. But what I wanted to show you is the personalization and the sheer efficacy that happens when Ayurveda is approached as a mature knowledge system. I'll conclude in 2 minutes. So if you see this, 3 patients, all with distinct pathogenesis histories, as opposed to what modern medicine in the 21st century posits. So this is the maturity of a system of medicine. And I want to tell that this is another tremendous opportunity, which is integrative medical care, which the government of India is proposing in a very big way. But look at the 4 areas, right? As adjuvant, which is supportive care, as a rehabilitation tool, post-emergency care, therapeutic wellness, and promotive health. And initial focus areas are things like cancer care, road traffic accident rehabilitation, polytrauma, neurodegenerative disorders. So these areas, when you look at it, this is an example of where Ayurveda and modern medicine work together today in India. So if somebody is trained in these type of practices, can go back and start what is happening in the US and many other enlightened universities in the world to offer in medicine. 2 slides on how medical value travel is happening. Today you can see that a lot of people are traveling to Asia, but most of them who travel to Asia from developed countries come for Ayurveda and yoga, right? So the developed countries are looking at Ayurveda and yoga as something which is a value addition vis-a-vis what else is there. Other thing, if you look at Indians coming to India, Ayurveda is the number 5th cause for coming to India, non-resident Indians. Yoga and homeopathy is also there in the list. So the important thing, it is a highly valuable tradition which is adding value to people. And of course, in Kerala, if you see it, 1.2 million people visit every year. This is a few years back before COVID, of which 30% come for Ayurveda, right? So huge numbers in favor of Ayurveda. So today, the market environment in India, and I would presume that progressively across the world, step by step it would happen. So in India, we have a large talent pool, very supportive government regulation. It's important for me to tell you that quality standards for products and services are established. These standards from NABH are internationally recognized. So if a hospital in your country would like to follow the same standard, it is possible to follow that. Appropriate integration with modern medicine straddles disease management and wellness with health insurance coverage. So this is what is happening in India. So this offers an opportunity, coming to the career opportunities in products and services across a variety of types of services, curative, rehabilitation, therapeutic wellness, the preventive health, which is detox, which is very popular internationally, leisure wellness, yoga, meditation, chanting therapy, and medical care. So I'm just giving an example of products across these categories: nutraceuticals, functional foods, cosmetics, lifestyle products. What could somebody who learns this in your country actually do? I will tell you, right? So they could manufacture or market some of these products. I've just put some examples here. Similarly, in health services, this is the spectrum of opportunities. There are programs from the government of India today where somebody can enroll for a 5.5-year undergraduate program and qualify as an Ayurveda physician, followed by 3 years of a postgraduate program. So all of that is done. There are similarly programs for each one of these. Why do I highlight some of these roles? Whether it is a geriatric care nurse, Japan requires currently about 300,000 geriatric care nurses. If you look at cancer care nurses across the world, there is nobody to look at palliative care and survivorship care and end-of-life care. Pediatric development disorders, autism, ADHD, muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy, all these areas are very distinct things. But I also want to throw light on diet and lifestyle counselor, hair and skin therapist, beautician. One of the most well-known Indians is Shehnaz Hussain, who set up an international empire just through this hair and skin therapy and products, right? Similarly, look at management. Anybody who comes and learns this can go back to their parent country and become a manager of a therapeutic wellness center or a yoga naturopathy center, also train in quality standards. And as an entrepreneur, they could look at running a health resort, setting up a resort, or a shop in shop, setting up Ayurveda departments within resorts in your country, right? It's a tremendous entrepreneurship opportunity. A lot of people do it today. The big chains do it. Your graduates can look at doing that. Outpatient therapy center. This would be pretty easy to do. Investments are low, and you don't have to get into serious medical care. So good opportunities. Inpatient hospitals with initial support from Indian partner. Medical value travel. I showed the slides on medical value travel because from all your countries, people would want to come to India for Ayurveda care. They can work here and work as a business development partner from here for Indian companies because somebody's familiar. Also a distributor for Ayurveda products. To sum up, NCDs, non-communicable diseases, chronic diseases, contribute the biggest chunk of healthcare needs, as well as rehabilitation. Preventive, curative, promotive healthcare. That's the spectrum of healthcare that is there. Huge demand for wellness, physical, mental, spiritual dimensions. And Ayurveda and yoga are well placed. So there are attractive opportunities. Thank you very much. I think I've taken 5 minutes more than my allotted time. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. I now invite Shri Pranav Gupta, General Secretary of the Federation of Indian Publishers, to make his presentation.
Can I have the presentation up from the control desk? So, namaskar and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pranav Gupta. I'm the General Secretary with the Federation of Indian Publishers and Managing Director with a company called Prince Publication. A lot of people feel publishing is still a business of printing, whereas publishing is, developing a thought, developing an idea, nurturing it. Yeah. So at the outset, I would like to thank ICCR and its leadership for inviting the Indian Publishers Association to speak on the Knowledge India program. And we'll be seeking the career opportunities what we have in the Indian publishing industry. But before that, I would also like to give you the overview and the market size, the growth potential what the Indian publishing industry possesses. So today's readers will be creators and innovators for tomorrow. Our civilization, the Indian civilization, if we talk about, roots back to 5,000 years. And we have been knowing our civilization through the various writers they have been writing for us from the last 5 years. And at the end of the day, we will be only be known in the future if the legacy continues and we have a robust publishing system. So importance of the publishing industry plays a pivotal role in the nation's development. Though we may not be a very, our role in the nation development may not be looked at in a very tangible format, but yes, there's a greater thing as a qualitative change we bring in the society, the knowledge what we bring in everyone's life. Connects culture to local to global. So whether we talk about from the cuisines traveled from one part of the world or the, the designs or the textile designing from one area to the another area, all has been transformed and has been traveled from books. Publishing industry, I always say, is the lifeline of the education system, and we'll discuss more in detail in the next few slides. If I talk about the economic contribution, it drives both the domestic as well as the international economies. If you look at the domestic front, the Indian publishing industry contributes 0.08% of the GDP. We are one of the largest publishing nations who export books from India to more than 160 countries across the globe. US, UK, and Ghana are the top 3 importers from India in terms of importing print books. We are the engine of progress, encourages creativity and innovation in all aspects. A quick overview about the Indian publishing industry. We are the world's third largest print book market, just after US and China. We are the second largest in terms of English language book publishing, just after the US. 24,000 publishers operate in India, and Indian print book market was at 722 billion in the financial year 2019-20, and it's almost growing at the close to 20% CAGR, and we are expecting to cross 1,000 million by the March 2024. If we talk about the publishing industry, we can broadly divide into three main categories: school education, higher education, and the trade book market. So 96% of the 96% of the publishing consists of the education, and the 4% is the trade, which is the leisure reading, the adult fiction, non-fiction. So the publishing ecosystem in India, it's mainly divided into three verticals. So school education, largest in the world by the number of students. Majority of the school textbook publishing happens is the state sponsored by the NCRTs and the state boards. What is happening? Sorry, I just jumped on the slide. Yeah, so India has the demographic advantage I talk about. We are the world's largest populated country. We are the world's largest, youngest population we have. Largest population in terms of school education of more than 265 million. The number of internet subscribers, the 467 million plus social media users we have. We have the largest Indian diaspora globally. The publishing ecosystem, if I talk about, as I said earlier, school education, higher education, and trade books. 70% close to is school education, which is state-backed, followed by the private players. Higher education, we have scientific, technology, medical, law, different areas, different verticals, predominantly dominated by the private players. And if I talk about the trade book market, it's a growing market, and we will deep dive where we see a lot of career opportunities in the trade book segment. So opportunities for the publishers at the moment, if we see. A lot of global publishing hubs at the moment outsource their work right from the pre-press to post-press to the Indian market because of the economic, in terms of doing the production at a very competitive prices, comparing it to the West, in terms of pre-press, designing, marketing, transportation, everything. Education sector is growing, and Indian curriculum and the pedagogy is quite capable, and it goes well, especially with the SAARC countries, few of the South Asian countries. And Indian educators have been able to design educational curriculums for a lot of African countries at South Africa, Ghana, and everywhere. Another potential area for the Indian publishing industry at the moment we see is in the OTT areas. A lot of web series, a lot of movies are now being adapted through the books. And another area, which is the growing area, which we will deep dive again in the next slide, is the language publishing. So as the Schedule 8 of the Indian Constitution, we have the 22 languages. And Hindi is the predominantly one language where we have a large number of books and everything gets published. But there's a lot of translation which is happening in India and the other languages. So school infrastructure, if I talk about, in India, we have more than 1.5 million schools. Higher education, if we talk about, we have number of central universities, state universities, deemed universities, colleges, right from the high-grade institutes like IITs, IIM, AIMS, IITs. And the new education policy and the recent Government of India move has also given the opportunity for the foreign universities to enter India. So new education policy, which was rolled out under the leadership of the Prime Minister Modi, is a very vast and a robust exercise which India will go through a traditional Indian knowledge system in next 10 to 15 years. It is going to be rolled out in a phase-wise manner. It's going to be executed. And a lot of things have already started taking place. So NEP talks on a variety of subjects, but I have kept my slides related to what it talks about the promotion of Indian languages, arts, and culture. So India's rich cultural heritage is a global treasure. Our culture we talk about is almost a 5,000 years, a rich culture we have. We have more than 19,000 dialects and number of languages we have in the Indian publishing system. There has been various challenges also we possess as an industry. Number of languages are also there, which are about to, get get a. If I talk about the technology and documentation part, web-based platform to document and preserve all Indian languages, these are certain initiatives which are being also done. Scholarship and incentives. ICCR has been promoting a lot of scholarships for promotion of Indian languages, but we need more institutes like ICCR to help in this regard. So new education policy from the school education perspective, it talks about one at the school level is to achieve 100% gross enrollment ratio by 2030. Another key area for in this where the publisher comes in is the use of mother tongue, a local language or a regional language until grade 5. And this creates an opportunity for the Indian publishers to promote and publish a lot of new books. In the higher education also, the government recommends to have a lot of local language as the medium of instruction. And in recently, certain state universities and state boards have already translated some of their English language textbooks into the other Indian languages in the field of sciences and medical as well. So if I talk about the market size of the print book publishing in India and the various, the categories, if I bifurcate, you right from the pre-primary, we go to the total higher education segment. You will see the growth has always been in the double digits at the CAGR, and by the financial year 24-25, will be almost 1,000 billion plus. So trade book market, which is the leisure reading market, the adult fiction, the children book, the graphic novels. If I talk about that constitutes almost 4% of the Indian publishing industry. If I compare it vis-a-vis with US, UK, Australia, the trade book market for India is quite low still, if I talk globally. But if we see at 2014 and 15, our trade book market was close to 1900 billion rupees, which further grew up to 28 billion rupees in 1920. And if we see that trade book market in terms of language, it was almost 11 billion in English in 2013, which grew up to 14. But you see a considerable increase from 2013, from 14 to 20, from English to Indian languages. The number of books and the market size for Indian languages has been growing. So if we see, we look at the chart, the pie chart at the market size by the languages, Hindi dominates the complete segment by 33%, followed by Marathi, Malayalam, and Bengali. And then there are other languages in which the books gets published. Number of books published in various Indian languages. So we took the chart of the year 2021, and almost 146,000 books were published in the year 2021. Out of that, almost 45,000 books we had in English, followed by Hindi. Then we have a lot of publishing happening in Tamil, Bengali, Odia, Marathi, and we even have a folk literature, religious books, which gets published. So if we see the topmost spoken languages in the world, out of that, you will see 5 to 6 Indian languages, they fall into the top spoken languages of the world, right from Hindi, Bengali, Urdu, you will see Marathi, Telugu, and Tamil. So here comes the career opportunity, the roles and opportunities what we have in the Indian publishing industry. First is the authorship. So any of the students, scholars who are studying abroad or understanding and also studying the Indian languages, they have a great potential in terms of writing books, research articles, and everything. Especially if they are doing some kind of research on subjects like Buddhism, Ayurveda, and so on. There's a lot of potential for the scholars to enter as an authorship as a profession. Then editors is one of the main, the backbone of, in terms of the literary sense. If we talk about, editing is one skill set, because majority of the publishing houses would prefer to have those set of editors who can do editing in more than one language. Translators plays a very critical and a crucial role when we talk about international students studying Indian languages, because translation is something a lot of people in today's time talk about, that we have softwares, AI tools which can easily translate, but it is the human who understands that emotion, that value, that meaning, which where the translator plays a key role. I believe the DDG himself here is a translator and poet, and he has studied number of languages. I was looking at his profile. So the essence of the translation, I would say, is something purely human that is required. Digital marketing is one another area which is growing in the publishing industry at large. So scholars, students, people who understand more than one language can make customized digital plans. In today's digital marketing, where we have so much data, where we can have each specific campaigns, where we can have, genre-based campaigns, where we have a region-specific campaigns. So any for students who pursue their careers into this marketing segment and having knowledge about, more than one language makes a lot of sense. Content development is one another area where people at different area, they need customized content. Today everything is need and specification required. Specific requirements are there by a different set of organizations, and at times we get, even in the publishing industry now, we get sometimes insurance companies to write manual books for their HR, for their marketing toolkits. So a lot of content development opportunities are there within the publishing industry. Voice over artist, extremely flourishing industry at the moment, I would say. The rise in the audiobooks is growing at a very fast pace. It's a very so not only in terms of audiobooks, even the podcast, the kind of attraction it has gained in the youth is immense. So voiceover artist, both in terms of for animation, for audiobooks, is a great potential for the students who can speak in more than one languages, who can read and write in more than one languages. Literary agent. A literary agent is something who technically negotiate rights between two set of publishing houses. So for an instance, if an ex-publisher in Delhi, they have published a book in English or a Hindi, and somebody in Spain or Germany wants to take rights. So literary agent is an established industry everywhere globally, and it is through them these a matchmaking of these publishing houses happens. And if a literary agent is another profession and a career which a scholar can always assume to can create. And sales and marketing, a lot of US, UK and European publishing houses have their offices now in India, and similarly now Indian publishers are also expanding their international reach. So it will be always good for the scholars in terms of the who understand different set of languages. For an instance, if I have to open an office in, let's say, Germany for my European Union business, and if I get a German student over there or a German employee who understands both German, Hindi, English, it makes my life easy. So there's a lot of opportunity in the management, in the sales, marketing, and in the admin roles. So as I say, publishing is the lifeline of the education sector. I'll just quickly touch base that apart from publishing, the scholars, they can also try their luck in the education sector. And I will not deep dive. So these are the key 3 to 6 areas which will do. So teaching is one. So if you see, we have a large Indian diaspora in the Gulf region, and a lot of Indian schools and international schools teaching Hindi. We have a lot of CBSE schools, a lot of international schools which are into which teaches Hindi and other Indian languages like Malayalam, Tamil, Telugu, Bengali. So a European teacher applying a job in that Gulf area also understands Hindi and the other Indian languages will always have a better potential to get a job in these set of schools. Rest is research, policy, counselors, librarian, admin, and special educator. So through this, since ICCR invited us from the publishing industry, few key recommendations to grow the Indian publishing on the global footprint would be the enhanced training opportunities for us. Under the guidance and the supervision of ICCR, we can also look at creating a Translators Guild of India, because that will be the bridge between for the scholars to understand and adapt more and pursue the careers in the publishing segment. Structured training programs. Training programs in terms of book publishing and translation is need of the hour. At the moment, there are only 3 to 4 programs in India in terms of publishing, and only 2 programs which are happening in the translation. One at the Ashoka University and one at the Jadavpur University. So some kind of financial support for the translators so that they pursue their career in this segment. Language-centric institutional mechanisms where we can have the involvement of both center and state. Cultural diplomacy and international promotion. That has to be the mandate for all our Indian embassies and the at the Ministry of External Affairs and all the 38 premium ICCR institutes we have. And at the end, I always say, India needs a strong book promotion policy. The policy where we talk about creating right from the mohalla libraries or having a book promotion officer at the district level, or we talk about, having a project aid grants. And because we have credit lines with a lot of African and Asian nations, that could be one of the things we need to have. And more of the campaigns like Har Haath Ek Kitab or Padhe India, those kind of campaigns, like the Prime Minister created one of the campaigns, instead of offering a bouquet, offer a bunch of a book set. So those campaigns needs to be run for in the interest of the publishing industry, not only at India, but at the global level. And when we talk about the knowledge-based economy, the Federation of Indian Publishers received a message from the Honorable Prime Minister, and where he has acknowledged the role of the publishing industry. So the Amrit Kal of next 25 years is a period to give wings to our aspiration, build a strong, self-reliant India. Knowledge has a central place, and in this mission, it goes without saying, publishing industry will play an important role. With these words, I end my presentation. Thank you so much.
Well, after 3 speakers, we'll now have a bout of some questions, if you have. Questions, oblique suggestions. Are there any questions so far? Any questions related to the 3 areas on which, yeah, Mike,
Hello, I'm Michael Zimmermann from Germany, University of Hamburg, and I have a question for Mrs. Depande, I think. When you gave this speech, you entered into the topic of how to attract young people to the study of classical India. I think you touched on that topic. So my question to you is the following. Looking at my own institution in Germany, students who are interested in classical India are getting less and less and less. I think also in the introduction, to the left, he was touching on this issue. Whereas other departments, like the Department of Japanese Studies, Korean Studies, is booming, especially Korean Studies. The reason for that, I guess, is that Korea has a lot to offer in terms of attracting young people to Korea. I think the same phenomena probably in India. You have K-pop, you have K-drama. In Japan, you have a youth culture, Akihabara, all these issues, which are very attractive for young people. Young people from the beginning are not so much interested in classical cultures, but they need something which draws them to the point. My question to you, does India have something to offer in that respect? Or are you planning to come up with a topic which might be attractive for young people?
Yeah. So thank you for the question, Dr. Zimmerman. I completely agree with you on the fact that if we want students to be attracted to Indian culture needs to reach out to them at their level. So while talking about value systems and philosophy is extremely important, like I said, it can't be pushed onto them. It has to be packaged, if I may use the word, in a manner that will attract them. And I think the government is working towards, coming up with frameworks where they will be able to come up with media programs as well as educational programs within the country, which will invite students from abroad in an academic framework. So, for example, I run a liberal arts program. A liberal arts program is a very different from a conventional education program in the country, which allows students to engage with disciplines across humanities, social sciences, sciences, business, and media. And what we do within the program, and we do have a large number of exchange students who come to us, is while we are skilling them in all of these areas, we are also skilling them and helping them understand the Indian knowledge system, or the Indian philosophy, the Indian traditions. We are trying to understand, for example, if I may take, we offer a course on Mahabharata. And the course is not just about the philosophy of Mahabharata, but we look at it from different perspectives. We look at it from the perspective of archaeology, history, political science, sociology. And the output of that is not necessarily just imbibing those values, but seeing how the student can apply that in the business sector, for example. You know, we're talking about business ethics, where Mahabharata is being used extensively. We are talking about Arthashastra, where we are talking about its role in diplomacy and statecraft. So if I feel that what we need to do, and I'm sure the government is looking into it, and FICCI and all other stakeholders will contribute towards this, is to make Indian knowledge systems more accessible, right? And the access will have to come in from the academic field, but as well as from areas where students are engaging with. So e-space is extremely important, the cyberspace is important, the media space is important. So that is something that will have to be taken forward if we are really looking for the Indian narrative to go forward from where it is. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Could I add to that? Could I add to your answer? So, Professor Zimmerman, just a quick point to add. If you look at the fact that today the young in particular are looking at they're environmentally conscious, they're looking at organic, they're looking at whole foods, they're looking at good for health, right? So these values resonate very well, and there's a huge market in Germany for Ayurveda and yoga, and therefore going away from the usual careers, this affords a very good thing. So I think more than Ayurveda, we didn't touch upon that part so much, but the fact that there is a tremendous environmentally conscious culture which is behind Ayurveda, which could resonate.
I think to add to that, you know, what we need to do is we need to look at the nuggets of information that exist in our systems of knowledge and then integrate it into different aspects, whether it's sustainability, whether it is health, whether it is mental health. You know, the world today is talking about mental health in such a big way, where the Indian psychology and the way you talk about the self and the larger globe is extremely important. And if those are integrated in that fashion, I think there's a lot more accessibility of Indian knowledge systems in the world abroad. Yeah.
Thank you, John Wardle from Australia, Southern Cross University. I guess this was in some ways presented to you, Dr. Vasudevan, but also more generally. And I guess one of the things that we have in our centre, we teach AYOSH. We have students going through that. Next year, we're bringing the first Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade funded traditional health knowledge tour of students through India. Next year, there's a lot of interest from the students where the issue is they hit a brick wall with employers and businesses afterwards. And what we found is there's a lot of facilitators of links in Australia, economic links, the Chambers of Commerce, the Australia-India Chamber of Commerce, for example, is very interested in health, but focuses on vaccine manufacturing and, you know, all those sort of other things. Indian knowledge is seen as a cultural cost to get those bigger prizes rather than actually a prize itself. How do we, I guess, you know, flip that to get some of those decision makers which can serve as brakes towards collaboration and career opportunities to think about Indian knowledge as an economic growth engine, not just a cultural growth engine for collaboration?
So, Dr. Wardle, I was just looking to your brochure as during the previous speaker's speech. And what you're doing in your university, in your department is laudable, and it's extremely solid work. I also see that you are former president of the Australian Medical Association associated with your department. What I would tell is that every society has got an underbelly of health problems which are not being addressed. So if you look at what you're doing in your department, by bringing in Ayurveda and yoga into that, beyond naturopathy, I think that would probably bring tremendously valuable job skills, which makes them employable in the market a lot more, because we can extend the scope of the care that is being provided in your department. So I would just urge that both from an industry angle or from an association angle, you'd be happy to engage with your university to see how we can add value to your students and make them more employed. I don't know if that answers the question you had. No. Something more.
A little bit, but more about how we can stop the perception. More about how can we stop the perception of collaboration and Indigenous knowledge between countries like Australia and India. How can we actually change the dialogue, the political conversation in countries like Australia, so it's not just about cultural connection, but economic connection as well?
Yeah.
Right. Can I take a quick...
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Please.
From the economic connection angle, there has to be a set of regulations which will permit this collaboration to happen. I think today we have a very receptive government in India, and I think a very friendly partnership with Australia. And I think this is something that we should explore seriously to see in the realm of naturopathy, how do we really forge business opportunity? I think it is possible to take it step by step.
I think to add to what Sir was talking about, I would like to say that traditional knowledge across the world has always been perceived as something more cultural rather than an economic aspect. And I think we were discussing this yesterday as well, that, if you're talking about health, if you're talking about yoga or Ayurveda, it needs to be recoined in the context of health, rather than using it as either a cultural aspect. So it's not a cultural artifact. It is something, it is a science. It has something to do with your health. And if we want to take traditional Indian knowledge as a scientific system of treatment or learning, then the conversation needs to change within the country and outside the country, and the government will definitely have to take a stronger role forward. But that is where I think the roles of young individuals who are studying these languages and these cultures in your country will play a huge role, because they will be the one who will be ambassadors of this information, which moves beyond a cultural narrative to an economic narrative or a health narrative or diplomacy narrative, whatever it may be that we want to explore.
Thank you. One last question in this round, and then we'll proceed to the...
I'm Idamar Theodore from Israel, and I'd like to address my question to Mr. Pranav Gupta. You were talking about job opportunities, and I realized that there's an opportunity for me, perhaps for all of us, to publish with Indian publishers. Personally, I published 2 books in English, Indian editions, and now working on a Hindi edition. So my question is, can you please survey the opportunities as far as Indological publications? You mentioned about 200 universities and thousands of colleges. What is the scope for, I guess, for all of us to publish Indian editions in English and vernacular languages? What's the market for Indological literature?
So almost if I talk about in terms of the education infrastructure, so all central and state universities and the deemed universities, they have the specific departments for these subject areas. And I see there's a huge potential for, in terms of the books, if they get published into the English and other Indian languages, the market is growing. And as you could see from my presentation, the number of students is growing with the increase in the number of institutions. And with the new education policy being rolled out, there has been a lot of students who have been dropped out during the course of their study structure, which the new education policy also brings them back. So I feel there is a very strong, growth opportunity and the strong opportunity for the, all the international scholars to get their books published, in the Indian market. And not only just the Indian edition, there are Indian publishers who are phenomenally doing very well. And probably, and a lot of, the Southeast Asian countries, a lot of African authors, they are now getting their original editions now published in India. And further, they are being translated into international and other Indian languages. So India is eventually looking forward to become a publishing hub globally. That is the way we are moving forward.
Thank you. We will now Go on to our next speaker, Mr. Ranjit Puranik from the Ayurved Drug Manufacturers Association.
Right. I represent the Ayurvedic industry, and I'll start by acknowledging Excellencies, Dr. Shweta, and a mentor of sorts to all of us in Ayurved, Dr. Jayan Dev Pujari ji. I represent the Ayurved industry. I also represent a company that is traditional in nature, has been in manufacturing Ayurvedic medicines for a better part of the last 151 years. I am the fifth generation in my family to continue the business and seventh member of my family to take it forward. And we are finally focused on manufacturing. There was a great event last December in Goa, the western part of India, where at behest of ICCR, we organized, as part of a larger Ayurveda forum, we organized the 9th World Ayurveda Congress. We had around 5,500 odd delegates. We had around 200 countries that had represented their traditional medicines and their interest in Ayurveda there. But most importantly, almost 235 foreign students studying Ayurveda in India were also present there from almost 37 countries. I'm sure most of these countries are represented here in this hall today. And the moment was a great milestone for all of us, because even the Prime Minister, when he came in for the valedictory session, made it a point to take a photo with all of those students. I wish I would have brought the photo right here and showed it off to you. But I'll introduce next. I will. How does one do next? I don't have it. Next. Can you do next? Okay. Right. I represent the Ayurveda industry. I'll just give you a small brief on this. Yes, we are traditional. Yes, we are, maybe our science goes back 2,500 to 3,000 years. But we are a robust industry today in India. It's estimated that our industry size is almost $23 billion in India. There are more than 8,800 licensed manufacturers. As manufacturers, we use over 1,200 medicinal plants, minerals. We use animal byproducts and also some marine origin materials in the formulation of all our medicines. There is a complete regulatory framework at par with pharmaceuticals present in India, which regulates us. And this is something that I need to explain a little bit in detail, because in 1970, my sector, the traditional sector, was made a part of the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, which generally governs the pharmaceutical industry. So we had an entire chapter inserted in the Drugs and Cosmetics Act as late as 1970. And the important part is that probably India is the only country that gave an absolute advantage, an absolute approval, to everything given in ancient treaties. So the first schedule of the Drugs and Cosmetics Act enlists around 54 ancient textbooks, which are compendiums of ancient knowledge, as reposed in Ayurveda, Siddha, as well as Unani. And these textbooks, everything given in these textbooks, as said 2,000, 2,500 years ago, some of the textbooks written even in the 10th century, tapped into repositories of traditional medicine as part of their entire drug discovery programs. But the important part is that they're continuing to look at molecules. They're continuing to look at something that they can synthesize and take forward. And it is said that almost 40% of modern medicine has its roots in traditional medicine. But that apart, the entire decoding of traditional medicine in the original syntax that it is intended has not yet been done. And this is the particular task. This is the whole vocation for scientists, practitioners, and research leaders to come about as part of traditional medicine. There is, of course, something that Rajiv talked about, which is the network clinics and hospitals. That, of course, is a vocation that's there. But we are seeing a maturing. We are seeing an absolute maturing of marketing management. The outreach from a traditional medicine sector beyond the 600,000 registered traditional practitioners in India and tapping into the 1.2 million modern practitioners with formulations and medicines who are having their original syntax intact from traditional medicine is something that's happening. So this challenge of communication, and that's what I call as marketing management, is very much a vocational opportunity that's available in my entire industry. Today, media has taken great interest in traditional medicine in India, but you don't really see a lot of, we see a lot of writings about traditional medicine in the local languages, but you don't see it really come in major national dailies and supplements. So if there are students who are studying Ayurveda from your geographies and they can really write, then this is an opportunity that very much is there in my industry. I also see some future opportunities that come about. And of course, it talks about content providers. And I will explain content providers more from the realm of a translation science approach. And this would require each one of these graduates from your geographies who are studying Ayurveda or Ayush sciences within India to be extremely informed with regards the sciences or the allied sciences all around. Because this entire aspect of translational science, to talk about the difference between a traditional approach to metabolism versus, it's something that a slide that Rajiv had shown, this translation science is going to be the cutting edge vocation or career opportunity that I can identify in the next 20 years. And not only in terms of research, but also being ability to communicate further. Of course, a rote language translation is something that's also required. But all of these $23 billion, the kind of galloping commerce that we see, puts immense pressure on natural resources. So there is great amount of opportunity for even international sourcing of our raw materials, whether you call it agroforestry or if you just call it just plain farming. There's not a lot of land available in India. There's not a lot of agricultural activity sometimes happening in medicinal plants, but most of your geographies are well adept, the same kind of eco-climatic zones. If there are agro-inclined kind of students and vocational careers that can be pursued, certainly my sector can offer that kind of economic activity in that regard. And the gentleman from Australia should know that there is an Australian company by the name of Quintus, which has a captive cultivation of 25,000 hectares of sandalwood. Of course, they've done that for the perfumery industry, but the aspect is like the sandalwood is very much a rare and endangered and threatened species in India, and my industry also uses a lot of sandalwood. So these are the creations that can also take place once we talk in terms of traditional medicine and the emerging career opportunities that come there. And of course, when you talk about, right here is an example of Vaidya Jayan Dev Pujari, an absolute eminent practitioner from a city called Nagpur. He's heading the National Council of Indian Systems of Medicine, the chief regulator of educational sciences in India. Similarly, we have Vaidya Rajesh Kotecha, another traditional practitioner who's actually an administrator, the secretary of Ministry of Ayush. Now, there is this entire administrative cadre itself that can come about, and I am more than sure that the students from your geographies who are learning Ayurveda, one of the first things that they would probably take up is the kind of the setting of the entire regulatory framework for acceptance of these traditional sciences even in your country. So this kind of regulatory dialogue between India and your countries, these are vocational opportunities, whether as administrator or as regulators, that I see coming in times to come. And I see a lot of interest. I am also the vice chairman of a newly formed Export Promotion Council, and the kind of interest that we see from almost 176 countries that Ayurveda is exporting its entire medicines. Right now, we are exporting a whole deal of raw materials and raw medicinal plants, but this is fast changing to products and medicines put up for retail sales. So this is the kind of profiling, this is the kind of economic activity. There are great amount of vocational challenges. There is a great arbitrage opportunity available for even your students who take up careers in Ayush sciences to also manufacture or better do value add in their own geographies and export back into India. So I believe Ayush sciences is going to very much be part of free trade agreements between geographies in times to come, and not just one sentence or a paragraph, but be very much as a point of discussion. And after 150 years, my industry, my company realized, we sat down and we said, what exactly do we really do? And what exactly have we really done? And that's when we realized that generations of doctors who have depended on us, and generations of the family and generations of the entire team in my entire company, one of the things that came about is that, all said and done, we're delivering health and we're delivering holistic health. And all of this leads to happiness. So each one of your students that engages themselves with traditional sciences, which has survived all kinds of challenges for eons, is not just 2023 and the world right now that's challenging traditional sciences. These challenges have been on in every era. The aspect is only the truth survived. And that's the entire point of really engaging with traditional sciences and traditional medicine, because ultimately it all leads to happiness. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have two more speakers in this session. I call Professor Vishwendra Singh Punia from IIT Roorkee.
Namaskar to everyone. And so I'll be talking about the upcoming IKS ecosystem at IITs. IITs, as I think most of us know, the premier technological institutes in India. They are primarily focused on engineering and sciences, a limited component of humanities. But after NEP 2020, there is a growing interest, as all of us know from Professor Murthy's presentation, in IKS areas as well. And so I'll take the example of IIT Roorkee, but this applies to all IITs or most of the IITs. So there are IKS centers coming up at most of the IITs. And let's say at IIT Roorkee, we have around 20 faculty members from across 11 departments. And the primary mandate there is to teach, there are around 10,000 students. So to impart an integrated understanding of IKS fields to engineering students. And for that, we have designed a 2-credit IKS 101 course, which needs to be taught to all the first year UG students of IIT Roorkee, which is around 1,400 students. And so we essentially have few courses. The point is that even though the ICCR centers are coming up at IITs, but we do not have enough faculty members, we do not have enough trained people to teach these things. And in this sequence, IIT Roorkee organized a National Youth Conference on Indic Knowledge Systems, which saw a huge participation from various IITs. This was organized in collaboration with University of Patanjali, Central Sanskrit University. And so talking about career opportunities, IIT Roorkee and all the IITs, most of the IITs are looking for regular faculty members, honorary professors in various domains of, let's say, Sanskrit studies and Indology and the domains which overlap with engineering and sciences. Apart from the regular faculty cadre, we have the visiting adjunct faculty members, the possibility of having adjunct faculty members, the professors of practice. So professors of practice, they do not need to have a PhD degree. They can be a practitioner of any field. And if they are distinguished in that field, they can be there at IIT Roorkee, especially for, let's say, 1 or 2 years and contribute in teaching and research. Then we are looking for graduate and postdoctoral candidates. And so these are the contact details if somebody, because this pool is going to be extremely helpful in developing the IKS initiatives at technological and science-based institutes. Let me give an overview. So at the moment, around 12 IITs have programs, have started programs in these various disciplines, which pretty much overlap with the expertise of the people present here. And there are a lot of opportunities in IITs in these domains, any expert in various capacities. And apart from this, I'll give you an example of an experiment that IIT Roorkee did in collaboration with Samskrit Bharati. So IIT Roorkee developed an online course called Subhashitam Sanskritam. So this was basically a spoken Sanskrit course, contained 5 modules. So there were around 5 modules. And it was floated in 2021. So it saw registrations from around 14,000 people from across 20 countries, a lot of Indian diaspora as well. And even up to level 5, 2,400 plus students were given certification. So up to level 5, 2,400 people completed the exams and the basic requirement of the course. The point here is that, and later on, just to complete this, later on, this course was made online in collaboration with Newton School. Newton School is an edtech company, education technology company, founded by IIT Roorkee alumni. And so this course is not for profit, but this has a potential of commercialization as well. What I'm trying to convey is that there is a lot of potential of commercialization of basic courses on IKS related areas. Subhashitam Sanskritam, the idea was to impart the knowledge of Sanskrit along with the dharmic principles embedded in Subhashitams. But this example gave us a confidence that a lot of content generation can be done in these domains, and that can create a lot of career opportunities as well. So these are some data about the course. I'll not maybe go into the details of the data. Apart from this, this is the structure of our IKS 101 course, which is meant to be all the engineering students. And at the moment, as you can see, that it contains a lot of topics, which means we cannot go into the details of each of these topics, but we would like to develop courses on these different, each of these topics in more details, which can be floated as electives. And those can be done, and this is happening at all the IITs, I would say. So those can be done by the experts in this domain, and they can be there for 6 months and then teach the course and then again go back. So this So there is a lot of such possibilities that are there. Finally, I would say that at our institute, we have active research groups on these domains. For example, the study of active compounds in medicinal plants, study of the process of making bhasma, and computational linguistics, and the design principles based on Vastu Shastra. So there is a lot of research going on, but it has a potential of converting into products. And in order to facilitate that, IIT Roorkee has a business incubator by the name Tides, and which has done quite well. And what I'm trying to say is that if we have the expertise from the real practitioner of this field, then possibly, let's say, from the inputs of the experts in Ayurveda, maybe some of these research can also be commercialized, which will further create career opportunities and employment opportunities for a lot of people. So, so essentially, what I wanted to convey is that this upcoming ecosystem of IKS centers at various IITs is creating a lot of opportunities in teaching, research, and startup ecosystem. And for IIT Roorkee, you can always get in touch with head at IKS. Thank you so much. And thank you to ICCR.
Our last speaker for this session is Shri Jayan Dev Pujari, Chairman of NCISM.
So namaste to everybody and good afternoon. I understand that always these post-lunch sessions are difficult, not only for the listeners, but for the speakers also. So, and still you are clapping. I congratulate you all that it shows that you are all giving proper attention to what speakers are talking about. And here once again, I am very much thankful for the organizers for two things. One, calling a regulatory body here to discuss with you, number one, and that also on the opportunities, business opportunities, career opportunities. That is very important part. Just discussing academics, just discussing the subject, just discussing the expertise is not only enough, but we have to see how we can implement, how we can generate the Lakshmi out of that, out of Saraswati. And when Saraswati and Lakshmi, they go together, you know how very well a country or a land or even a globe, universe can grow like anything. So, as I told you, we have been established, NCISM is established by the Act of the Parliament, Indian Parliament in 2020. And we started working in our office from 11 June 2021. So we are baby that way, but we are a regulator. And you know, in every country, regulators, they are very powerful and they hold the many powers with them. So we started creating the regulations to implement our act, because act is always a precise one, and to implement that act, we have to create the regulations. So these are the new regulations based on the new act, and there are few opportunities for the people like you, experts like you, and we are making some provisions in our regulation also. The first one is we are very much close to Sanskrit, because Sanskrit is the basis of Ayurveda. All our texts are mostly in Sanskrit. And that's why those who are running Sanskrit departments, they are very close to our heart. And if they are studying Ayurveda text, then nothing like that. So you are always welcome for that. And we came up with a new system of education where main course is there, which has been taught in the colleges, in the hospitals, etc. And the other are electives. Those which are not in the main course, they are all in the electives. And as per National Education Policy 2020, we have converted these electives into the credits, and then this credit convert into marks, and those we have attached to the Viva marks. Those credits will be added in the Viva marks of that student. So for 1.5 years, the student has to complete minimum 3 electives. And we have a 5.5 years course. So minimum 9 electives he has to complete, excluding this internship. And for these 9, we are open. Now we are with around 30 electives, but with your expertise, you can write to us, and there is a structure for these electives. All these electives will be online courses, 45 hours, and some distribution is there, and there is a financial arrangement also. So if your elective is accepted by our commission, then there will be financial arrangement between your university, between your institute, with NCISM, that is National Commission for Indian System of Medicine. So that is one thing you can do. This we always prefer for an institute or a university, because we can go with an individual also, but it is always better for us to go with the institute. And because it is compulsory, you will have minimum not less than 1 lakh students at a time at UG level, and not less than 15,000 students at PG level. So these are the things. Even at the PhD level, we have decided to add some electives, but that regulation has to come. This is the one part where the academicians like you can contribute, and there will be a financial arrangement. We are working on a regulation that if your institute if your university is interested in starting, because we are dealing with the education not less than graduation. Our power starts with the graduation level education. So graduation, post graduation, PhD, super specialization, like that we regulate. If your institute or if your university wants to start a Ayurveda college at your place, or in collaboration with the Indian universities, yes, there is a provision for that. And looking at the demand all over the world, there will be a great scope, and we are sure that we have worked over that there will be a financial stability for that course. That will be a sure one. And as ICCR is already providing scholarship to nearly 120 students every year who are coming from abroad to study Ayurveda here, 5.5 years course here, and they are again going back. So these people from your geographic locations, these students, will be of immense help to you to conduct this type of activities, because they are institutionally trained in India. So these activities are also helpful for you. Another thing is those who are working on the manuscriptology, particularly Sanskrit manuscripts, they are also welcome by our commission, because as Honorable Ranjit Puranik ji said, that our whole the regulatory structure for manufacturing Ayurvedic medicine is based on only 54 important granthas, that is text, that is traditional granthas. The importance he has already described. But Ayurveda is not limited to that. According to the estimation done by us and the other people, there are nearly 1 lakh manuscripts even today available all over the world, not only in India, but all over the world, particularly in European countries or some South Asian countries. If your institute or the person or a professor or a student from your institute, they are working on that, we will find out the way to help for such type of activities. So such type of proposals are also we are working for. For example, just example I will give you. And there is a book called Chatushantram, but it is it was written in basically Tibetan language, or it was translated, I don't know. And that we want to get it translated in English and Hindi, because the medicinal plants used in Himalayan range, they are very well described in the Chatushantram. So such type of activities are also welcome from our commission. Uh, the awareness regarding yoga is also increasing day by day, but there is an independent arrangement for yoga in the Ministry of Ayush, and yoga council may be established by the act of the parliament soon. That is what we are expecting. The courses, if you are running in Ayurveda, which are below the graduation, then again there is a provision for accreditation of such courses by Government of India, that is by Rashtriya Ayurved Vidyapit, RAV, that is. So if you search for this Rashtriya Ayurved Vidyapit, then you will get that portal for application for accreditation of such courses which you are running at your places, and your course, whatever you are running regarding Ayurveda, small course less than graduation, will be accredited. That way, that will improve the status of your Ayurveda course. That is what I understand. Now, this is the era of chain clinics. Our Rajiv Vasudevan ji is sitting over here, and you can take guidance and guideline from him, that how, in what way he is working, and you can try at your place with the help of your institution. And there is a huge demand for such type of activities all over the world. Here in India, nearly 6,000 registered medical practitioner of traditional medicine are there, and out of that 13,500 institutionally trained in India practitioners, they are practicing abroad. They have their association, they are going for teaching, they are going for giving advice, they are going for giving advice regarding diet and treating the patients. And now 16 countries, they have changed their regulation, and which is favoring to the practice of traditional medicine. So that rigidity in the world is regarding traditional medicine, and considering it as unlawful activity is reducing day by day. The best example is of Switzerland. Switzerland has made correction in their act to facilitate the practice of this traditional medicine, particularly Ayurveda, in that country. So the scenario of traditional medicine in the world is changing. Now India has become a leader in traditional medicine because of the activities and initiatives taken by Government of India. And the GCTM, Global Center for Traditional Medicine, has been established by WHO in Jamnagar, India. So the research type of research activities will also continue in that center. And this is the scenario. And you can find out the opportunities at your place. You can find out the persons and the initiatives which are taken at education level. I have already told you. And anybody working with the Sanskrit at higher level, higher than whatever is there, because Sanskrit this is the only professional course where language is compulsory. In any other professional course, language is not compulsory. So in NCISM, we have made compulsory for first year to all BAMS students. And in postgraduate also, if he is going to do a post-graduation in Samhita, that is classical text, then he has to complete few electives on the Sanskrit grammar and Tantra Yukti and Anukta and Laishokta, that all the experts in the Sanskrit, they can understand this very well. So being a regulator, we are not in a way, we don't have any direct opportunity for employment or business, but still these are the initiatives taken by us which can help you people to take up such type of activities on behalf of uh, uh, on behalf of NCISM. Once again, I am thankful to the organizers for giving me an opportunity to come over there and have 2 words with you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've run out of time as we have a session with the Honorable Minister of Education at 5 o'clock, and we have to prepare the stage for that. Keeping that in mind, we'll take just one question. Yes, and yes, just one question, and then you can continue with your questions outside while having a cup of tea.
My name is Dembril. I am from Mongolia. I would like to ask the question from Vasudevan and Ranjit Puranik. Because in my country, the Himalaya, the industry, manufacturer, they exporting Ayurvedic medicine. Do the Ayurvedic factories study certain geographical specific people's lifestyle and dietary and culture and weather, some other things? And because my friend asked me, bring some Ayurvedic medicine, Himalaya drug from Delhi. Because when the drugs selling in Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia, the color, smell is different from selling in Delhi. That's why she asked me bring asli dawai, bring from India. They don't have the Ayurvedic center and physicians and therapists.
Your question
my
is either an Ayurvedic medicine from or a medicinal plant from the Himalayas, or is about a medicinal plant manufactured by a large Indian company called Himalaya Drug Company. Now, why would the same medicine be different in aroma, texture, and feel as marketed in Mongolia versus marketed in India? I am not the best person to answer that question, but yes, I can tell you there are times when in India we are allowed to formulate the medicine in a particular manner, but maybe your regulatory paradigm demands that the company had to reformulate the formulation to comply with your regulatory standards. And that's one of the reasons why maybe the aroma, the texture of the capsule, or maybe they're marketing it as a cellulose capsule versus in India, it's more of a tablet. So these could be some small and large kind of differences. But if it's the same medicine, generally speaking, the active ingredients would be the same. So the company is large, it's a standard company, and would have certainly taken care to ensure that its delivery of the promise would be the same in both the dosage forms.
Thank you. Do you have to?
I will respond to your question offline. I'll come back to you later.
And ladies and gentlemen, we'll now take a very short tea break. Please be seated much before 5 o'clock. Quickly have a cup of tea. You can ask your questions to the experts, and then kindly be seated at least 5 minutes before 5. Thank you.